Well, hey everybody, it's that time again. Yes, director's commentary, and this is one that you guys have been asking for quite a bit. I think it might be the last one of season 2. I've referenced sort of a lot of the ambiance of filming Survivorman as it was for season 2. There were a lot of changes in season 2, behind the scenes. A lot of stuff went on, and I think this is the last episode. I'll have to double check, but I think it is. This is the Cook Islands episode. A lot of you have been asking for this one. Really interesting for me. This was where I was able to kind of take the tropical thing next level and get out there. So cheers to you. It's already wine o'clock here where I am. And for all you fellow stout drinkers, sadly I am out of stout. Or I'd have a nice glass of something chocolatey and coffee and thick. But instead I have a phenomenal red. So there you go. Cheers. Without further ado, let's get right into Cook Islands.
The fringes of the Arctic, the middle of the desert, on a mountain in a blizzard. Given a choice, most people would easily choose a tropical island if they were forced with the decision of where they had to attempt survival. And I'm no different.
In fact, you know what? A lot of times people will ask me, you know, would be my favorite place to survive if I ever had to. You know what it is? It's real simple. Tropical paradise, Gilligan's Island. That's it. If you have fresh water on a tropical island, the rest is easy. Hopefully it's full of coconut trees. Live off of coconuts, crabs, fish, snails, you name it. There's so much there. But you've got to have that fresh water part of it as well. So, yeah, that's it. Nowhere else to put me. Oh, what about you're Canadian? Well, Canada. Yeah. Have you been here in bug season? I'll take the tropical island.
Maybe easier, but that doesn't mean it's easy.
I should mention that this version of the show we're watching comes from the DVD that we have put out many years ago now and available on the website. But it's this version. There's slightly different versions depending on if you're in the United States or, for example, overseas. Actually, they have extra footage in the stuff that's overseas, which I think we also put on these DVDs. The ones you buy through me.
Without fresh water, you're dead in a week. With it, you still need to brave sharks, eels, and poisonous fish if you intend to harvest from the ocean. The intensity of the sun here can fry you in minutes, and brutal cyclones can wipe you off the face of the island. To create the right scenario, my crew is leaving me a boat raft. They'll run it out ahead of me to wait on the island.
Recreational diving is becoming hugely popular worldwide. And just like skiers looking for the next mountain, divers are always on the search for new and more remote locations for underwater discoveries.
Wow, I remember some of that gear. I don't have all that gear anymore. Been through it and advanced on from it. Oh, it's phenomenal gear. Really, this episode in many ways was a chance. Well, I just wanted to base something off of diving. And again, as always in a survival situation, what is the reality? What could really happen? And oh, that's my phone that's pinging, by the way. Haha. Try to escape modern technology. Let's see what the message is. I'm going to interrupt you guys. Ah, look at that. It's my cameraman Max Atwood, who was not on this shoot, and he's just texting me stuff, and I'm just being rude. You know, I'm actually, I'm going to tangent on a stupid subject here, but my kids can tell you this, and even my friends, but I'm so against the rudeness of the cell phone, but especially when you're visiting people, when you're entertaining people or you're hanging out with people. When my kids at first would bring out a cell phone at the kitchen table, of course, they were my kids, so I could just say something, and I'm like, yeah, no, that's not going to happen. We're having dinner together here. We're talking. That's not going to happen. Go ahead, finish that text. We'll wait. I've done that. And then with friends, I'm just like, I'll just look at my friends and go, seriously? I'm sorry. Is that more important? I guess. And then with maybe in-laws, we have to be even more careful. Sometimes I'll just stare and I'll just go, no, it's okay. We'll wait. We won't keep eating until you're done with your texting. I don't know why I'm going down this tangent right now. I've only had one little tiny sip of wine. But because I just interrupted myself with my own cell phone. Okay, you stay over there. You're turned off. Let's get back to the Cook Islands, shall we?
Diving is an addictive activity. Though the lead-up is often early mornings and rushed boat trips, it all stops when you fall beneath the waves. You only hear your breathing, and everything around you moves in a slow, serene manner. But the skill itself requires solid instruction and takes years to master. And as with many things, along with its inherent beauty, is the potential for danger. But the risk is worth it. The Cook Islands are in the middle of the South Pacific Ocean, and my island, called Motiktu, is on the outside edge of a massive shallow lagoon. I could literally walk or swim my way across to the main island where people live and vacation. That wouldn't be survival.
Now, that's really important to point out. I could literally walk or swim my way across. And sometimes the haters would jump on and be like, oh, I don't think you weren't alone, or I don't think you were there. That's why, here's a case in point. I always point out, look, yes, I recognize when the tide's right low, although it's still, there are sections that are 10 feet deep, but when the tide is low, almost walk across to civilization. It's a couple of miles, but still, right? Or swim across, right? And I always like to point that out to you in any of these episodes, like, okay, I'm not that far from here or from there, but I'm here to do survival. And then in this case, this particular island, and I'm not sure, I think I mentioned, maybe I don't mention it in this show, I probably didn't at the time, but this particular island was an island that was used by the Survivor series to film their stuff. And they had actually been there, I think the year before I shot this show, and I kind of did it on purpose. It's like, okay, well, let's go see, where they're shooting this stuff, and sometimes it's right around the corner from things. But in this case, it was this beautiful island, and you know what? They cleaned up everything except for a couple of pallets. They left some rotting pallets in the jungle, so they almost got everything. But there you go.
But accidents do happen. A storm can blow in, or a navigational error can leave you stranded on some small island. But what happens more often than you might think, your dive boat leaves you behind, either fearing that you're lost or simply forgetting to do a head count. And you're left dumbfounded, horrified, and alone in the middle of the ocean.
So that was the idea in this one, was to mimic that situation where you come up from a dive and your boat's gone. That sounds really scary. That's because it is. And that almost sounds like, does that actually happen? Yes, it does actually happen. Worse down in sort of the more in like Malaysia, places like that, where there's less quality control, if you will, on the diving organizations. And so yeah, it does happen. I don't want to scare you off diving. Trust me, if you can get into diving, it's one of the most beautiful things you'll ever do in your life, and you can't do it fast. Even a guy with energy like me, you get down beneath those waves, and everything you do slowly. All you do is yoga breathe. You just breathe. That's all it is. It's just about breathing the whole time. You can't do it fast, and I just love diving. And this gave me an opportunity to say, okay, well, I'm a diver that's left behind. Now, why would I want to go with this scenario? So that I would have the diver's gear. And then, of course, I knew I was going to this island, so we set this up. There's no question about that. But I wanted to end up there with the diving equipment and see how that plays into survival. I wish I could remember his name. He was like this really buff, well-built guy he's there still to this day, I'm sure, on the Cook Islands. He was an instructor that taught me a lot of the different survival techniques for this area in the Cook Islands. But that was a lot of fun. And by the way, that's something that I'll be doing in the future, is going back, and I have footage from seasons 1 and season 2 of all my training to do survival in these areas, and we were never able to show it. So I'm going to put it all together in some nice edits for you and get that out to you on this channel as soon as possible.
So with my safety crew a few miles away across the lagoon, it's my lot to survive the next 7 days alone without food or water on my own little paradise.
Survival on a tropical island might just sound ideal. And I suppose if you compare it to the middle of the desert or the Arctic, it is. But survival is still survival, no matter where you find yourself. And for the next 7 days, I'll have to survive here, alone, without a camera crew, no food, and no one to film me but myself.
Ah, yes, back in the days when I still had to explain all that every single episode so people got it. Because remember, this was still brand new. You know, it was only just now being copied by Man vs. Wild, but for the most part, what I was doing was brand new, so I still always have to explain it. And the executives always wanted that. Make sure you tell everybody what you're doing. After a while, it's like, they get it. They know. They're a smart audience, and I always want to give you guys credit for being a smart audience. That's the way I produce my films. I don't want to deliver pablum to the masses. I want the intelligent viewer watching my stuff. So after a while, I was like, I'm not going to keep saying it every episode. They get it. They already know that the jig is up. They know why I'm here.
To simulate a shipwreck, they left me a wreck. All my dive gear, including my dive bag.
Kind of a double scenario if you think about it. Old wrecked boat that just happens to be there that we put there for me to play with, and my dive gear from the diving. So again, giving me items and things I can play with to utilize for survival, to see how I could utilize them for survival.
And one shirt.
And as always, I have my multi-tool and my harmonica along for the ride.
Tropical island survival or not, it's gonna be a long week. Already a storm coming in, and I haven't even unpacked yet. Well, the first thing I'm gonna do is just get this boat straightened up and get ready for this storm to hit. Take a look at what gear I've got with all my dive stuff that I can make use of and get out of this wetsuit.
Oh yeah, quite a selection of cameras there on this one. And of course, I did not have that camera gear with me while I was diving, obviously, so it's left in the boat so that I can basically, I went in off the back of the dive boat. Now I'm lost. They take off, but when they dropped off the wreck boat, they left my camera gear for me there, and that's where I pick it up.
Here's all my dive gear, underwater camera equipment, and my shirt. Well, unfortunately, if it does come on to rain, that's my only shelter for tonight.
As much as I complain about the Canadian bugs, and they still are the worst, the one, you do have the issue of sand gnats, sand fleas, different little flies down in the tropics, and they can bite as well. Nowhere near as up here in the springtime, but they can be nasty. Oh yeah, so that's beautiful time lapses. My other shooter on this is a backstory. My other shooter on this was Andy Peterson. Awesome dude. He's now actually a firefighter, I think, with the city of Toronto, and he's probably way up in the ranks by now. Wonderful human being. He joined me along with Max Atwood, who was the same Max Atwood of the earlier text. They joined me as interns straight out of college, Canadore College in North Bay, Ontario. And this was actually one of their first jobs. Can you get that? Instead of having them putting labels on tapes in the video library, which is what most interns do when they come out and get in with a company, I threw a camera in these guys' hands. I put them behind the editing suite. So here I fly Andy Peterson all the way to the Cook Islands to basically, he's not with me, obviously. He's back on the mainland, but he's getting the time lapses of sunsets, close-ups of nature, that sort of thing, which saves me from having to do it. And I've also echoed this many times on a director's commentary that I missed that. I really missed doing that myself, which is the first season I mostly did that myself. And I missed it here. But it was good to have, there's still confidence in knowing somebody else was out there filming the weather, filming the sunsets and that sort of thing, so I didn't have to anymore. And both Andy and Max, and then later Andrew Shepard, Peter Estevez, I mean, they all got beautiful footage. But Andy Peterson was a lot of fun to work with because he was accident prone. And another little story on that, whereas Max Atwood, and Max, I know you know this, Max busted or dropped in the water, in the ocean, I think, in a river, I think, or a lake, twice or three times totaled my cameras. Andy Peterson would do the same, except not to the camera. He would total himself. Every single shoot, he would wipe out somehow. On this shoot, he wiped out going downhill on a moped. I'm not sure if he had a camera in his hand or not. I think he had a camera in his hand. And no matter what Andy did to himself, he never hurt any of my cameras. Whereas Max, you still owe me a couple of cameras, buddy. Well, that's it. Hasn't rained yet. Stars are out. I can see the rain off in the distance. So, night number 1 of surviving on a tropical island is going to be right here in this boat. And with any luck at all, the rain will hold off. If it doesn't, I'm going to have to crawl inside underneath the bow. And I won't sleep at all. It's just not very comfortable in there. But I'll get through the night tonight. And tomorrow will be a new day. See how it goes.
It's morning of day 2, surviving in a tropical paradise.
Well, I got through the night all right. It did spit, though, just a little bit. Just giving me the heads up on the warning that there probably is rain coming. Of course, right now, I don't have rain. I've got the opposite problem, which is the direct sun. It'll burn me in this tropical heat in a very short time. So I'm gonna pull everything out of the boat. I had to put everything back into the boat last night because this island is crawling with ship rats. So I brought everything up into the boat so it wouldn't get all chewed up. And that's gonna be played upon later, obviously. But yeah, the island was just crawling with rats. They call them Captain Cook rats because they came directly from Captain Cook's ships when he traveled through this area. This is called the Cook Islands. And those rats are direct descendants of his rats, basically. And that's something else to point out here, too. You know, we don't often, whenever you think of survival, you think of, cold, wet, windy, rainy, all of that sort of, but the sun can just do you in something bad. I still fear the cold more, but the sun can really beat you up. And so I mention it because it's important. It's an aspect of being able to survive somewhere, is understanding that you don't want to find yourself burnt to a crisp and especially getting sunstroke. I'll take it out now and just see what I've got to work with here. So for the most part, I don't have anything with me that any other normal diver wouldn't likely have with them. I've got my wetsuit and booties, fins, snorkel, mask, regulator, my BCD, and my dive bag with things such as casing for my mask and a few other items like that. Everything that any normal diver would have with them on a diving excursion. So we'll see what I can do with this stuff. And I'm not sure if you ever caught that theme with all the Survivorman shows, is it that that's what I always sought to create, was a normal set of circumstances. Nothing extravagant or dramatic or over the, just like this is what would happen. So if you were to be stuck with your dive gear, here it is. This is what you would have. Now, can you use it? Honestly, I was probably a bit reluctant to use it because it was my good dive gear and it would have been buying new stuff if I destroyed it. But I also found, if I remember correctly, I found during the shooting of this episode that in fact, the dive gear wasn't much use. Now, the snorkel and the mask, I think probably later for spearfishing, but otherwise, it was just this rubberized equipment. Over time, it might have become useful, but not in this short period of time. And I'm going to take a look at that boat. Looks like I've got 3 cameras there, maybe 4. Now, notice there's a great, perfect example. I've been asked a lot about audio. You see how I've got the audio pack on there. Good audio is absolutely, I've said this many times, absolutely vital to you having a good film. You must have clean, clear audio. And so in this case, that's actually a lot of the times why I wore my necklaces, because if you look, the wire goes up and I clip this mic, right, this guy, onto my necklace. That way I can be shirtless and still have a microphone in the right place. You can also tuck them into your hat and so on. But absolutely vital. Never trust or use the audio from your onboard camera microphone. Always have a lav for voice and a shotgun for ambiance.
To help keep some of that sun off my head. Fry to a crisp out here. That'll have to do.
Well, it looks silly, but I didn't have a bandana, so it makes sense.
Junk that I can probably use. Buckets full of rust and old oil. Not much I can use these for.
This boat just came from the Cook Islands. I said, just find me a beat up boat and nothing too slick or fancy, something you don't mind if I beat it up or tear it apart or do anything I want to it. And I don't know, somehow they came up with this this dead boat motor. I think there's a motor on there.
Way too dirty. Poison myself if I collected rain with them. Just a little tiny bit of gas left in there. Probably also water in it as well. It's like even some old fishing line. Old rusty hooks. You know, in a survival situation, anything is usable. Nothing is too small or insignificant. I think the first thing I'm going to use is this crowbar.
It's time to do a little remodeling on the boat wreck. When it comes to building shelters in a survival situation, the best thing for me to do is to take any advantages I can find and save myself a lot of energy loss.
Now, you notice I'm doing this right away. It's because I knew storms would come in. But what an advantage. Whenever I remember this also in the Arctic episode, there was an old shed and I remodeled it. Boy, in terms of having a shelter, if you don't have to use natural branches, trees, stuff like that, if you can use man-made stuff that's good and ready to go and covers large areas and protects you from the rain, it's the way to go in a survival situation. I mean, what would be better than that? A tent. I mean, that's the thing, is in survival, it's always feels a little crazy when I teach this, but the more comfortable you can make yourself, the better off you'll be. The more you will get through the nights, get sleep. I always say, you've got to get your sleep. You get sleep, you can think properly, and you can function, and you can effect better survival. If you can't sleep, it just becomes an emotional and mental nightmare. And so I don't want to have to build a shelter with palm fronds. I'd rather build it out of this boat.
Why go to the trouble of building an elaborate bush shelter when there's some kind of natural shelter close by?
I didn't even know that that's what I was about to say. But yes, that guy's right.
Or in this case, a man-made structure that for now is high and dry. The island is thick with gnats, rats, and mosquitoes that can carry dengue fever. In the boat wreck, I'm out in the breeze and up off the ground. The best place to be.
I might regret saying this, but I think when that rain comes, it'll be quite a relief. This tropical sun is a killer. Just moving around in it at all, wiping me right out. I have to stop pretty often just to rest in the shade. I'd just be burned out.
I'm able to moderate my body temperature with frequent dips in the ocean, but that in itself has a lot of inherent dangers around here. Now it's time to make use of some of my dive gear.
I was going to cut this apart and use it as a blanket, but it's going to make a perfect rain catch if I ever get any rain. That's what I'm going to use it for. Let it rain.
Like I've said so many times with other shows, it's been a lot of years since I've seen this episode. I can't even remember the last time I saw it. So I'm going to be remembering it with you as we go along here, because somebody's like, oh, I forgot I did that. So rain catch, first thing I did, I need fresh water, get a rain catch going. If you've got a tarp, for example, that can lead down into a bucket, whatever you've got, getting a rain catch is going to be getting fresh water is going to be so important. Hindsight, maybe I should have cut that thing open and made it bigger and wider and had it funnel into a bucket. But there was oil, residue oil in the bucket, things like that, and I don't want to poison myself. So,
Well, at the very least, I can use this big, heavy tank like a signal device. Well, I have a dive knife that was strapped to my BCD, and I was going to dangle it here, because what can happen is the sun can hit it and it will flash and acts as a marker for anybody out there who might be looking.
yeah, that's actually a really cool thing. You hang the knife out and it might hit the sun, and somebody's out there in a boat and they notice it and they come in and check. But notice this shot here. This is, I get asked a lot about, when things go wrong or problems with filming and that. If you see, and we let it go, we obviously didn't care, but you can see the audio cable on the top right corner there. Yeah, that's not supposed to be there.
For someone who's lost, they pick up the flash and hopefully come in and rescue you. But I just discovered that this dive knife that I have, I forgot, it's titanium. There's no shine to it, so I can't use it for that. That's a good thing to know when you're buying a knife. So instead, I'm going to use some of these marker boards, underwater writing boards.
Now, I get asked a lot about when cameras aren't working. Now, if you notice, I'm showing the marker board to the little camera I have down on the sand there. And yet we don't cut to that, which means either I forgot to press record or it was really blurry and out of focus, a camera glitch. Otherwise, we absolutely would have cut to that shot. But I see that we don't, so there must have been something wrong with the camera there.
Now the tank itself is bright yellow, so that helps. These cards are very white, so with any luck at all, they'll be easy for the eye to pick up from a distance. Well, not so certain that that'll work, but it puts the shiny white card in the sun, in the wind, flashing. Somebody in the distance might spot it.
It's funny, I was just filming the card itself, and yet we still didn't cut to the image of the card. I'm wondering if maybe that was a camera tape that was lost at some point, because I can't see why the editors wouldn't have shown that. So again, camera glitches, problems, losing cards, losing tapes. Back then, these cameras, I was still on tapes. So actual video, I guess it was high def. This was high def this season, but it was the first time that I was able to go to high definition on tape.
I come in to see what's going on. Other than that, that big yellow air tank, if I could get the top off, I could maybe boil water inside it. But beyond that, it's just a big, heavy air tank. Maybe I can crack milk it. So maybe I can crack coconuts on it or something. I'm about 100 yards walk from my boat shelter, and I think I've found a nice little supply. Oh. There we go. All right. I need this bad. This little baby will be the source of a lot of benefits for me. I've got 4 uses I can get out of it. And the first one is to get a drink. It's a little dangerous walking around in bare feet, but I needed to get them out of those neoprene booties, let them breathe, get some air, or I would have ended up with fungus problems. Well, I do have a dive knife. But in survival, if you have a knife, it's best to not use it if you don't have to. Any other means you can find to open things or break things or cut things instead of using up your knife are better, because it saves the knife, keeps it sharp, perhaps for when you really, really need it.
You gotta remember too, back then, this was a lot of survival information that people didn't have at the time. I mean, it was out there, it was in books, it was in courses and things, but certainly first time presenting it on film like this, and I'm so very earnest here, but it's great. I mean, I'm just being the way I should be as a survival instructor, giving you the basics of a lot of things. If you don't have to dull your knife, don't dull your knife. Learning for myself right there in front of you. I was planning on setting up a reflective flash in the sunlight kind of knife. Turns out with a titanium blade, you can't do that. Didn't know that. So I always loved bringing you the kind of instruction and survival tips that, even if they were very basic, were still very important.
So survival, for sure, the best thing you can do is base everything on spending the least amount of energy as possible. So what I'm doing here is, there's a stump, it's already in position, it's got some sharp, very sharp points on it. So maybe I can use this, a bit of leverage, to get into this coconut. A safe way. So you just put it in once like that. You don't keep jamming in. Wiggle it in, and then start to just push down on the other side of the coconut here. In, wiggle, and push.
If you get a chance in season 2 of Wild Harvest, Les Stroud's Wild Harvest, watch the episode 12, Conch, Coconuts and Cacao, and there's a unit I use for splitting open coconut shells like this one in that episode, and it's absolutely brilliant. I wished I always had it when it came to coconut. So check that out. And if you're not familiar with Wild Harvest, you should be. In fact, here's a promo right now. Luke's going to show you a promo. You ready? And 3, 2, Wild Harvest promo. Woohoo! Beautiful little rainbow. Dinner.
This perhaps is the most incredible kitchen scenario I've ever had.
When you start getting involved in local foraging, can you create a dish where the domestic ingredients don't overshadow the wild ingredients? It's the best when it's its own flavor. When you're making something with a wild edible, you're nailing it and not losing the wild flavor.
Sometimes it is about the ingredients.
Doesn't that look great? I'm loving making that series. And season 2 is out now, Cottage Life Television in Canada, PBS stations in the United States, National Geographic around the world, or on this YouTube channel. You can check out episodes as well. All right, back to Survivorman.
Come around to this side. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. And all of this inside of this coconut is a good fire starter.
Just gonna stop it there, Luke, because that camera died.
All right, I've got a husked coconut now. See the little face in the front there?
That little face right there is what gave the name to the coconut. I want to say, oh man, I want to say Portuguese, but I could be wrong. I think the word coco, cocos, is skull or head, and it comes from that, and that's, I believe, how we ended up with coconut. I don't know, look it up on Wikipedia. Even though Wikipedia gets most things wrong, you can check that out. Looks cool though. Wilson.
All I have to do is pop in there. There we go. Oh, I need this. Go. Perfect. So the trick to this is simply to hit the coconut right dead center, just a bit, all the way around. Weaken it. There we go. And that way, when you open it up, 2 perfect halves and a lot of delicious coconut meat.
That is some pretty amazing survival food right there, let me tell you. One of the things I just noticed there too is you hear this commentary on, tearing apart an engine for survival, in this case ripping apart a boat motor. Very, very difficult to do with a multi-tool, right? That's the kind of thing you need some pretty good, strong tools, ratchets, wrenches, all of that. So you actually can't, in a survival situation, just rip apart a car or a boat or a plane. It doesn't work like that. That stuff is all welded together with big bolts and all the rest of it. So the best you can do is usually get at fabric, that sort of thing. In this case, I was able to take off the prop, and that now gives me a striking tool, a hard-edge striking tool that really, in longer term, I could probably sharpen those prop fins into being more like blades. So definitely useful, but there's not a lot else I would be able to get out of that engine, at least not without some heavy tools. Very nutritionist.
The other benefit I have now
coconut.
Nutritious.
As I can take it, I can scrape some, and this coconut mush, and use it as a protective oil from the sun. If I can eat one coconut a day, I can survive. They're full of a ton of essential nutrients, vitamins, minerals. Augment that with fish, whatever else I can find or catch out here, and it'll be some pretty good survival.
And that's one of the main reasons why I say tropical survival is so much easier. You've got coconuts. Coconuts, water, fish, you can live indefinitely.
I found my small raincoat in my dive bag. A good thing given that the weather here changes very quickly.
Well, here comes the rain. Might not necessarily be the most comfortable shelter I'll ever have, but hopefully it'll be dry. I'm a little worried about the peak. The angle's wrong and it could come dripping down on me. I have to sacrifice an airbag. Should have done this with the air tank, but I'm going to blow up my PCD. At the very least, for now, I can use it as a pillow. To keep the rain out. Well, that stops the drip at the peak. Probably best I don't allow myself to get soaking wet. It is the tropics. Pretty unlikely I'll get hypothermic, but I suppose the possibility is always there. If it stayed raining like this for a long time and went into the night, I could get pretty chilled. No need to let that happen, so I'll stay in out of the rain for now. I've got no way of drying off anyway. With any luck, my rain catch will be picking up on a supply of water.
That hypothermia, that, you know, it can creep up on you so quickly, and that's even when you are in the jungle, the Amazon jungle or the tropical islands, it really doesn't matter. You get wet, you get chilled, you get cold, you can succumb to hypothermia simply by being wet and cold the whole time. And don't forget, there is always the night. There's always all through the night to deal with. And you say, oh yeah, but it gets like so hot at night. Not if you're cold and wet, or sorry, not if you're wet and it makes you cold. Even in the tropical areas. I have shivered in the jungle before, believe it or not, at night when you're not protected. So staying dry is all great and fine. If you're not in a survival situation, you can get wet, who cares? But in survival, you want to stay dry, always.
Even a paradise without fresh water would quickly become a death sentence.
This rain catch is working fantastic for me. This is the regulator. I'm going to sacrifice it. Can't use it anymore here anyway.
Oh, what a shame to good dive equipment.
Excellent.
That's a great way to get water in a survival situation, or when you have a collection of water, is if you can fashion a straw. Especially if you're doing something like distilling, not distilling, but you're getting the evaporation water from a tree, where you put a plastic bag around the branch of a tree and you're collecting water that way. A straw. It just makes getting it into your body so much easier. And that's all I did here, was make straw.
Tastes like rubber, but hey, it's water.
You keep watching, you get some wine.
Well, if it rains at all tonight, I'm pretty well protected with this wooden cabin. It's nice to get that bit of water right before bed like that, just to get some liquid back into my system. Oh. It also feels good to be up this high off the ground and away from all those rats. I don't know if they'll make their way into the boat. I would imagine they can sooner or later.
The island is covered in rats that have little fear of me. These are actually ship rats, and they are likely direct descendants of rats off Captain Cook's ship itself.
Well, it's morning of day 3. I didn't get quite as much rain as I had hoped for last night, but I still did get a few cups, which is pretty helpful. Shelter's holding out fine. Didn't rain all that much last night.
So now I'm going to go into the center of the island and see what I can find there.
It's kind of the way a lot of these Survivorman episodes have played out. It's like land and deal with the situation at hand right there where I am. And then it's almost like reconnaissance mission times. Expand, go beyond that, see what else there is, what else I can do, where else I could go. In an actual survival situation, would I play it out that way? For the most part, yes, but I usually, in really out there in real survival situation, one thing I like to do is a reconnaissance mission stroll, if you will, before I do anything else. Because I could spend all night not sleeping well or making a shelter only to find out that 80 yards away was an amazing place I should have been. So I do like to do this reconnaissance mission, stroll around the area, zone of assessment, so assessing what I've got on my body. Zone of assessment number 2 is what's close at hand around me, and zone of assessment number 3, what's further afield. But you can't know further afield unless you get out and walk around sometimes. So that's a big thing. When you're in a survival situation, if you can, do a bit of a stroll before you commit to where you're bedding down for the night, where you're making your shelter, where you're going to set up your signal fire. Do a little mission first and see if there might not be something better.
My priority, now that my shelter is secure and I found a source or two of fresh water, is to assess my surroundings, see what I can take advantage of in the tropical forest itself. Anything I can use as an axe is likely going to help.
That's a pretty pathetic axe, but note that I put that thing on my bandana there. That's actually a trick that I learned from North American native culture. The reason why the feather was always there when the indigenous population of North America, once they got horses, was like a baseball cap. It was basically there just to block out the sun. That's it. And squinting all the time and getting burnt on your forehead and so on. So that's why I put that there, was just simply to make like a bit of a fake baseball cap, block out the sun.
A beautiful island, both in the interior and on the beach, and my time here is made safer by the fact that there are no poisonous snakes or insects to worry about, so exploring comes easy.
It doesn't mean there aren't biting insects, biting ants and so on.
Okay, good. Here's something I can use. Take these feathers out now. These feathers are not just for show. They're acting kind of like a baseball cap. They're shielding my eyes from the direct, harsh sunlight. In fact, when you see Native Americans in old paintings and pictures and they've got just the one feather stuck out of the side, what they're doing is they're blocking the sunlight, the direct sun from the horizon when they go off hunting.
I've heard that somewhere.
All right, this I can make use of.
I should have known I was going to
Indeed.
address that, because I wouldn't normally just do something on screen and then not address it. Make sure you're aware of why I'm doing something in a survival situation. Here we go.
I've got cuts on my hands and the flies are trying to get at them. Might want to cover them up soon before something lays its eggs in my skin. So this fella here, I can eat.
The tropical forests, just like the jungles and the boreal forests across the world, are filled with millions as of yet undiscovered nutritional and medicinal benefits from the plants within their delicate ecosystems.
All right, this is gonna be good. Now, those roots that are like that, there are hundreds of them on this island. If I can get maybe 3 or 4 of those a day and drink this healthful liquid, it's really good for getting liquid into my system, and it's excellent for the heart.
Isn't that funny? That would have been something that I trained in before I went in, but clearly I forgot what it was called, or I would have said it.
It even tastes good. That's great. Go get some more of those.
There are a number of stages in the growth of coconuts, and all of them have their benefits to the lost victim.
Ha-ha! Ready for this? This is my favorite part of the coconut. Juicy, tasty, oh so sweet.
It certainly is. They call that the growins down in Belize, or the coconut apple. And again, we feature it in the conch, coconut, and cacao episode 12 of season 2 of Wild Harvest coming up. We feature working with that basically in the kitchen to show you how delectable it can be. But I do love this part of the coconut. Probably of everything I ever learned in all of the years of Survivorman, this is probably my favorite thing ever, was discovering this part of the coconut. Those coconut apples are where they get the oils from coconut for suntan lotion and things like that.
Before I was left out here, the local islanders had shared with me the survival benefit of this particular time of year, the availability of some wild game.
And that's a rarity for Survivorman. Wild game is so overplayed in discussion, like why don't you just go do this, or why don't you just go do that? It's just not that easy. You don't take some thread and a safety pin and catch a deer. So wild game is a tricky one, but once in a while filming Survivorman, I found myself in the right place at the right time when wild game might be possible. In Grenada on the island, I didn't really need it because I was having success with fish, so I left the turtles alone. I didn't want to bother there, disturb them, even though it would have been legal for me to eat them. I didn't want to disturb the turtles. As well, I think I caught very small birds, but they were so tiny that I would have had to have been really destitute and really rough shape to eat them. There was no point, and I could have got more of them. So instead, I went for the fish when I was in Grenada. But here, the brown booby was it was legal for me to take it. It was accessible, and it is harvested by the locals as a treat. So I got permission to do so, and here I am.
Got a great opportunity for
Tricky one to film.
If it's still there. Back to it. It's a young booby, that's a bird, that has fallen down out of its nest. I don't think he can fly. This could be a real substantial meal for me. I might have a meal tonight. Now that is a survival meal and a half.
And that is about as sensitive as I could make this. I knew that this whole thing is, look, it's not a hunting show. It never was. It's not about hunting. But here I had to go and hunt this bird. Legal to eat it, legal to take it, population's fine, all of that. It's me showing you, and that's the point, is me showing you this is what's possible in survival and what you may need to do, which is why I've eaten the odd squirrel sort of thing. And in this case, it was going to be a fairly substantial meal. The population was strong, and this bird availed itself to me by falling out of its nest.
You see, these boobies and different birds are nesting on the island right now, and all of the young are in the nest, and they can't fly yet. They'll fall out of the nest sometimes, and they'll either starve on the ground, or they'll get eaten by something else, or sometimes they make it. But in this case, I think rather than climbing a coconut tree today, I'm going to concentrate on getting a fire going and have myself one heck of a meal.
And that is something that often would change for me. It's more often when I would have good luck in a survival situation that it would change all of my plans. So I thought, I'm going to try climbing a coconut tree, getting a whole bunch of coconuts, I'm going to be fine. But instead there's a brown booby there, and it looks like that's going to change everything. Now I can eat that as a meal. Oh, but I don't have a fire going yet. Oh, right. I was maybe not going to film that until the next day. Got to film it now. So sometimes the good luck that would happen to me out there would change the storyline that I was going to film for you.
Whenever you catch a wild bird, the best thing is to pluck the feathers right away. Body's still warm. Feathers come off much easier.
That, by the way, is debatable. That's debatable. Some people will say, no, you need to wait. You need to freeze the bird. You need to wait till the next day. Everybody's got their own different take on when you should pluck the feathers off a bird. I have found it's better right away.
All I really want to do is just open this bird up enough to take the insides out so that I can skewer it. Just want to get your fingers right up inside. Break the membrane away from the rib cage and pull. Okay, leave the feet on. I'm gonna put that on a skewer. First I'll go wash it off in the salt water and have me a meal. I'm gonna try something new for getting a fire going. I've got all the stuffing from the coconut tree. Add a bit of gasoline. There we go. This is a rescue tube, diver's rescue tube.
Oh, I forgot I get to play with this. By the way, little note on survival and getting a fire going with gasoline. It's not the liquid gas that will take a spark. If all you have is a spark, it's the fumes you need to get. So you need to enclose the liquid gas in a place where the fumes are in the air space above the liquid gas and spark into there. And that's what gets the gasoline to ignite. Now it's going to be a woof, a big ignition. You want to be really careful, really safe in this situation, but more it's me pointing out that it's not the liquid that ignites from a spark. It's the fumes above the liquid if you're using gas to help getting a fire going in a survival situation. And usually things kept in it are items like matches, lighters, and often, in my case anyway, I have flares. These things tend to shoot really far. Wish me luck, folks. Here we go. By the way, before I do this, there's a thing about safety equipment like that. If you can ever have safety equipment that you can try out first, it's really important. You never try that. People put safety gear and survival equipment with their stuff, and then they never actually test it to see if it's even ever going to work. So you want to buy enough so that you can do some test runs. For example, an EpiPen. If you have an EpiPen, have you ever even tried to use it? If you have an EpiPen for other people because you're an instructor, have you ever tried to use it? Well, best way to do that, get an orange. Try it in an orange. Learn how it works. In other words, waste a dose testing it out so that you know, oh, that's how it works. Because you don't want the first time you're ever going to use an EpiPen to be when you got to shove it into somebody's thigh because they're having anaphylactic shock. Same thing with these types of flares and that. See if you can go to a safe, legal place and try them out so you know that they're working.
Yeah!
And off we go.
Look at that! Excellent.
That's a lot easier than rubbing two sticks together.
We're having roast booby tonight. What happened there was, there's my flare. You see, you just pull down on this lever and boom, you shoot the flare, and normally it goes flying up into the sky. So I just had everything closed in there with the rock on top, shoot that right into it, and I'll bet you that would work whether there was gasoline or not. So it's a good thing to know. A flare, big bundle of dried tinder, protected with a rock, and you've got yourself a good fire. And I have myself some roast booby to eat.
I can always tell when I've done something in a Survivorman episode. Well, I know anyway, obviously, but you can always tell. If it was also my first time, or I hadn't practiced it, or I wasn't sure if it was going to work, you can see it in my face how elated I am. Oh, that worked. I had no idea whether or not that was going to work. And I've always loved doing something for the first time on camera so that you get a very real, very palpable reaction from me, including when I fail. But when I don't fail in a situation like that, it's like, okay, I just learned something new and you learned it with me.
Pretty much any bird is edible in a survival situation, and there are plenty of rescued survivors to verify that.
Oh boy, oh boy. Yeah. Roast brown booby. Cheers. Roast booby, coconut milk. Oh boy. Oh man, is that good. The irony being that I'm eating booby breast.
Yet again, a tropical weather system takes control.
I do believe I'm trapped in here for a little while. Glad I got that good meal in, and I have a chance. That's a lesson of the tropics. You know, the weather changes so often. if you've got some good fortune and something you can do during that period of good weather, do it. You can't wait. Do it, because otherwise you end up with this. So, I mean, I took the time of the sunshine to be able to cook that bird. Got a good full meal in my body. Can you imagine a good full meal? Probably at this point, it's what, 2 days without eating? So it's a big thing. And now comes the rain.
This should mean my rain catch is filling up with water. Well, it's middle of the night and it's been raining non-stop. It's been really hard to get out of the boat. The tapes had finished in my camera, so I wasn't even able to get out to my camera gear to replace the tapes till just now. The good news is that my rain catch is filling up with great, fresh, clean rainwater. Huge difference for me. But I see more black clouds coming. And to tuck back into the boat and try to get some more sleep.
Water makes all the difference in the world.
Well, a bit of a tropical storm.
It's day 4, and the tropical weather patterns are not giving me any breaks.
It's been raining all night, and as morning comes in, it's still coming down. This is pretty much it. Been stuck like this for, I don't know, probably nearly 20 hours now. Just on and off pouring rain. Some of my cameras are actually shutting down and from the moisture, and I haven't been able to even get outside to change tapes to shoot much. Oh man, it's still coming down.
I wonder how many times I've said that while filming Survivorman. Remember, the Arctic was like that, the jungle was like that. That is the thing. When you're filming, rain can really stop you. In a survival situation, I always say I fear the wind more than rain. But in a filming situation, it's the rain. It really stops you from trying to get a lot done. And so I had the challenge always of, well, how do I portray that to you? How do I show you that I'm kind of locked in doing nothing? In some cases, and I enjoyed showing you this, like in the Arctic, I could show you just how bored. In fact, as a matter of fact, here, take a look at this. This is the Arctic scene where it shows you, like, good gosh, the boredom just sets in when it's nonstop rain. Take a look at this.
Without a windbreak from trees, without land features to stop the windy onslaught, without a well-made constructed shelter, being trapped in by the wind and rain in the Arctic is unequaled.
4 hours, it's still raining. Four and a half hours. Still raining.
You see what I mean? Like, sometimes I have to show you what's going on. And that was always my point. I wanted to show you everything that I was living through. And sometimes what I'm living through is really boring. And I can't do anything. I can't build a shelter or catch a bird or make a trap. I'm just stuck. But that is real survival, being stuck. This shot here, yeah, so that would be, as an example, that would be an Andy Peterson shot. Where he filmed that from, I have no idea. Where I was probably way out in that ocean. Not even that little island that you can see there. That's nothing. I'm way beyond that in some tiny little island. As far as I know, I don't think that's the island. So this would be an Andy shot. There's an example of what the other, when I say that before, I've said, oh, the crew gets the beauty shots. This will be an example of the shots that they get.
Oh man, 2 of my cameras shut down and my audio pack shut down, all from about 20 hours of non-stop rain. They're just showing the condensation meters are blinking and won't allow me to turn the cameras on. So 2 down and 2 cameras left.
I didn't actually realize that happened here on the Cook Islands. I knew it happened in the Amazon jungle, but I forgot that it happened here. Yeah, it's rough filming in the rain.
This is enough rainwater, I'm sure, as long as it doesn't become contaminated, to get me through the next few days. The thing I have to worry about here is there are so many rats here on the island. I'm still worried that what if they're coming in here to drink the fresh water and then probably also defecating and peeing in the water.
That's something people, when it comes to, people talk about, catching rainwater. When it comes to catching rainwater, phenomenal way to get fresh water for drinking. But you forget that, well, what's it coming off of? Oh, that tarp or that roof. Yeah, but birds fly over and poop on that roof. So rainwater is not a guarantee of being pure drinkable water, including in a survival situation. It's a little more immediate in a survival situation. So if you're using a tarp or whatever in an ocean scenario where you're catching the rain, okay, sure, that's going to be fine. But just remember that whatever your rain is hitting, it's also cleaning and washing off. And if birds have landed there, rats have walked across it, you've got urine and poop and all sorts of stuff to deal with, or plastic and chemicals. So catching rainwater, while it sounds like the perfect answer to having water in a survival situation, you must be really careful about it too.
Better cover you up. I want to lose this camera too. It's time to make the ultimate sacrifice. Oh, say goodbye to a good harmonica.
Not true. I think I just bought like a really piece of crap one because I knew I was going to be tearing it apart. I think I actually did this because people say, oh, what if you had to use your harmonica? It's like, all right, well, let's use the harmonica.
You see where I'm getting at here? Okay, so this is going to be my spear point. It once was a blues harmonica. Now, it is a spear point. Since this has been pretty much a whole write-off this day, I've only got a couple of hours left. So I think what I'm going to do is just work on my fishing implements and get everything made and ready for tomorrow. And then if I have to, if it's still raining tomorrow, I'll put on the wetsuit, but still get in the water, catch some fish. Too tempting not to. Well, this is an old wreck of a boat, and as luck would have it, it has its share of tangled up old fishing line and some old hooks. This will work perfect. I can blow this up, nice bright float, get an anchor for it, and I'm going to dangle a bunch of hooks from it. Use the zipper. Got buckles I can tie to here. Closest I can come to somehow simulating survival at its best or worst, as it were, is to not have a camera crew and be out here alone. But that means that loneliness and fatigue and I don't know, maybe not boredom, but although boredom can be deadly out here, but it all hits me. And a day like today where it's just been raining all day, it's pretty hard on the system, pretty hard on the emotions. These are very rusty old.
And I do remember when the other shows would come along and try to talk about being lonely and alone, and they had a camera crew with them. It was just such a joke. But I didn't mind pointing this reality out for you because it was a truism in a survival situation, is that kind of loneliness, and unfortunately it leads to lethargy, and lethargy leads to boredom, and boredom can be crushing emotionally. But especially when you're dealing with a ton of rain and you're trapped by the rain, you really think of all the other things you could be doing in life, especially when you're me and you're actually just really filming a show. I can't imagine an actual survivalist or an actual survival victim being stuck. The boredom would be, it'd be so crushing.
Hooks. It wouldn't take much for me to slip, fall, turn, pull, do something too fast, I'm not watching, and shove one of these barbed rusty hooks into my skin. And then I've got myself a whole new set of problems to deal with.
I can always tell, I mean, this is obviously shot before I did the Beyond Survival series, which is available on this YouTube channel, by the way, the Beyond Survival series. Still, I'm most proud of that, of any series I've done. but it's because it's before I got the tattoos with the stick and the nail from the Indonesian shaman. They're not there, so it's always almost strange for me to see myself like this. Also, I have hair. There we go. So I've got a float. I've got all these hooks dangling from it. Put this out there with some bait on it and an anchor and a rope to the shore. Oh, that's one thing I have to make sure that I do. Let's put on my wetsuit booties, because right now is about the most dangerous thing I could do, heading out into the water. Reason being is stonefish. Stonefish are one of the most poisonous fish in the ocean, and there are a lot of them in this area. All I have to do is step on one of them, which is a common occurrence if you're in their area. They're easy to step on, they're camouflaged, you can't see them, and they'll tend to hide so you can step on them. And just one stab of that would be excruciatingly painful. The pain shoots from the bottom of your foot right up to the top of your head and can and has been fatal.
As is the case so often, when an ecosystem contains some kind of poisonous element, it also provides a cure. And this little green leaf chewed up and put in the wound would stop the stonefish's venom in as little as a half an hour. Now it's time to get the bait.
I didn't mention it, but if I remember correctly, I think the rats took the guts from the bird and ate it, which is a real shame, because now that I'm watching this, I'm thinking the guts from the bird would have made phenomenal bait to use out there. And I see that I didn't do it, so I'm guessing the rats ate it. Pull the crab out. The part I want, this juicy little specimen right here, that's what I can use for my fish bait. I want to break up because I'm going to use it like chum. When you chum the water for fish, you're just basically trying to get all the scent. If I leave the bait too big, then the fish eat it, and they get fed and they don't bother going after the bait that's on the hooks. All right, so I've got the float that I made with all the hooks dangling from it, and I figure I can use my own diver's weight belt as the anchor. And I'm gonna get this out there. I've got my crab bait now. See if I can catch something. Oh, I did mention that I have to watch out for stonefish. I also have to look out for moray eels. They are poisonous, but they pack quite a bite. Did I also mention that most shark attacks occur in 2 to 3 feet of water?
The lagoon is like a...
So this is early in my career where I'm still worried about things that you really don't need to be worried about, such as a bite from a moray eel or certainly a shark attack.
Massive swimming pool, making most activities pretty easy. The other side of the island is the open ocean and can be quite rough, so I'll try fishing on this side for now. For 3 days, there were flounder all around me when I walked in the water. Now that I have a spear, they're nowhere to be found. What's happened is that they've become aware of me. They've sensed me as a threat and have moved on to elsewhere in the lagoon until I stop entering the water. This is just another part of becoming aware of the natural cycles and rhythms of an area when you're attempting to survive.
So you see, even like a shot like that, you just saw that shot where I was walking in the water and stepped over it. All of that takes time. It probably took me 20 minutes to a half an hour just to get that shot. And I got to get the underwater camera, set it up, do the whole thing. But the point is that I'm trying to tell the story of what it is that's going on with me in that moment. And that is a pretty pathetic looking spear, by the way. Well, here comes the rain again. I didn't get a lot accomplished today, but probably 36 hours of nonstop rain played a big part in that. So here I am stuck in the boat wreck shelter again. It's just the way it goes sometimes in survival. But I did get a spear made, a net made, and a fish float made, so tomorrow I will do as best as I can to try to catch some fish. If it's raining, I'll throw the wetsuit on and get out there. If I get cold tonight, the wetsuit is still dry. I can put it on to keep me warm. It's going to be another long night.
It's day 5. My fish float with bait on it is in the water and hopefully doing its job. But this wet weather is frustrating me. It's time to get busy.
You know, I'm just about hot enough that if it stays like this, maybe I'll just go back out and fish in the rain. What I want to do is I want to dive for clams.
The tropical ocean is bountiful if you know what to look for and what to watch out for.
That's what I mean. You can do so much shallow water foraging in the tide pools and the tidal area and the coral reef area that it's just wonderful. I still stand by, you know, the easiest survival is going to be tropical island survival. The problem with me in this situation was I was still quite inexperienced. I can see stuff there that's like, oh, why didn't I take the sea urchins? Like, you know, I still did not have the experience that I have now for knowing what's available and what's edible. But there is an awful lot, and that's the advantage. Sea snails.
This is a type of sea cucumber, and the white slime that comes out of it works very much like an antiseptic covering for cuts and scrapes. It's even being researched by scientists to see how it can be utilized for medical benefits.
All right, well, definitely worth going in the water and seeing what was there. There's not a lot on this side. There's going to be more on the other side of the island, I'm sure. But I'll save that till tomorrow. So I'm just going to cut into this clam, get myself a meal. Fresh clam. And it's sweet. Well, wow, that's good. Where there's one, there's going to be more. That's another young one. He's just learning to fly. I've already taken one from the island. I don't need to take any more. We'll leave him be.
Since the flounder seem to have outsmarted me by leaving this area, I want to see if I can outsmart them by attempting some night fishing. Bit dangerous, but worth the try.
Well, here goes nothing. I'm gonna grab the torch, set it on fire, and make my way to the water.
So the idea here is when you go out at night, not only do you attract various crustaceans and fish and so on because of the flame, because of the light, but also you illuminate the area where there are creatures that are coming out and they only come out at night. So the night hunting, night fishing just offers up a lot more opportunity for more food.
Although how I'm going to carry the camera at the same time is beyond me. A lot windier than I was hoping it was going to be. I just got to make my way down to where the coral beds are. That's where the best fishing is going to be. This is not easy. Should have built the fire way down there.
Night fishing is a spooky activity. The light only gives you vision for a few feet. Sharks usually enter into the lagoon at night to feed. The chance of stepping on an extremely poisonous stonefish or painful sea urchin becomes much higher. It's one of those things that can work once you master it. You just have to take a deep breath and go for it. Given time and practice, I know I can make it successful, but it's going to take a lot of patience. Well, I tried. Obviously, fishing with a torch made out of palm fronds at night here in the tropics is something I'm going to need to try again. The problem here was fire was too far from the coral spot, so running down there I lost a lot of the torch. So now I know. Make sure that I've got a very short distance between lighting it and getting into where the coral is to try to find the fish.
And that's when I love it when I fail. That was a total failure, and this was an opportunity to show you what a total failure looks like. Oh, why don't you just do some torch fishing at night? Easy comment to make. You've got to start it. You've got to try it. Well, I thought I had it all down. This will be no problem. I can do this. I've been out like that before. Let's go for it. But not this way, right? This was the first time I've ever done it that way. And yeah, total failure. And you got to see the total failure. But what does that failure mean in a survival situation? That failure means I don't have food, right? So failure for the sake of a TV show is one thing. That's fine. I'm sharing all of this with you. But failure in an actual survival situation can be life or death. So it's vital that you learn from your mistakes and move forward from there. But I was always happy to show that for you on camera.
So I'm giving it another shot while I still have the energy. I would love to
see how I do this time.
A meal of fresh fish.
So you see, one step better now. Getting a handle on the torch, I've set it up a little better. I'm able to spend more time in the water fishing. And survival skills are often like that. It's one little bit at a time, usually beginning with a failure or two or three.
It's day 6, and I'm bound and determined to finish this survival odyssey on a good note. Maybe even with my own tropical feast.
If you don't think that was hard to film, guess again. That was really difficult to film all of this completely by myself, trying to have my camera not float away on me, stuff like that, while see what I mean? There you go, see? Cameras fall and drop all the time, so I'm trying to do this while not losing my camera. Heck, I'm just trying to film a director's commentary and I knocked the camera over right there, so there you go, case in point. Palm hearts.
Made a kind of a mess of it, but the insides of these palm trees are quite good, quite edible. Come on, baby, burn. There we go. That's what I like to see. Now to cook up some of that bounty.
This is definitely leading to what I think, well, other than the Arctic char, I suppose, was my greatest survival meal ever on all of the Survivorman episodes. Actually, and before we get to that, you know what? I thought I was going to do this too. I want to finish off this page here. I'm doing some Q&A stuff where I'm answering your questions, and I've got them all printed out here. So I thought, you know what? I'll throw a couple into even this episode of a director's commentary. So let's just, before we have this amazing meal, finish this show out. We go to someone called AJ. Hey Les, out of the episodes of all your series, which one stands out as your favorite to have filmed, and which stands out as your favorite episode after editing to have filmed. Favorite, boy, that's a real tough one. So many of these episodes I love so dearly. But the favorite to have filmed, well, if we count out Beyond Survival, because those are my favorites to film, I'd have to say maybe in Survivorman, gosh, I might even want to say this one, the Cook Island ones, because it was just kind of easy on me, you know? And I always do love being in the Amazon jungle, so that's a favorite one to film. And then after editing, that's a tricky one because Barry Farrell did he just made some magic in the editing suite. And sometimes he saved a show that I thought wasn't going to be that good. And I was blown away. I was like, man, it's a good episode now. Thank you for doing that. But after the edit, so it's almost like saying what great edits did Barry and the team do back in the edit suite. It's hard to say. Maybe Mexico. I wasn't sure Mexico was going to be a good show, but those guys made it beautiful. Fellow Patriot says, how often do you have to stop for breaks on a long distance with sled dogs to my destination for the night per day? So that's in relation to the Labrador episode with the sled dogs. That all depends on the dogs, how many you have, what they're used to. But you want to be humane and kind with your animals, with your sled dogs. Absolutely, give them a break. I mean, you know, just because you're not tired doesn't mean that they're not. So, big variable in answering that question. Another one, Ian Seifert, 567. One, boots on or off in a survival sleeping bag? Off. Does having a watch hurt or help survival? I can imagine knowing it's 3 a.m. is painful, but not knowing can also hurt. Painful. I hate having a watch in survival. I can figure out how much time is left in the day. That's all I need to know. But waking up thinking that it's 4 a.m. and finding out it's only 11:30 p.m. is crushing, soul crushing. So my favorite is not to have a watch when I'm in a survival situation. And lastly, Coin Roll Hunter. Would I go on Joe Rogan's podcast again? Oh, of course, anytime. Joe's a cool dude. I mean, I keep telling this story. I've been on Joe Rogan twice. The first one was fantastic. The second one was a little different. He went on the attack a bit when it came to Bigfoot and some of the footage and stuff. And the problem was that I met up with Joe at the Comedy Store. We'd been partaking. And by the time we started the podcast, it was 1 a.m. I was I was out of it. I couldn't even put one sentence behind another. So I was not articulate. And he was, I mean, he comes into his zone in the middle of the night, you know. So partying with Joe took the steam out of me, and I would love to go back on so that I could be like ready, and then I could take it to him on a few subject matters. But sure, I'd go back on Joe Rogan anytime. All right, let's watch me eat this amazing meal. Not a lot of people roast coconut like that, but it works really well. It makes for some amazing eating.
Oh boy. Welcome to dinner. We've got, of course, my favorite coconut centers, palm heart, roasted coconut center, coconut roasted clam, my root juice in a beautiful coconut cup, and of course, my coconut juice. Which I think maybe what I'll do is I'll add a little, mix the two together. There we go. Nice. What a smorgasbord. Well, I can tell you, this is going to be fantastic. And all of this was gathered really in not very much time at all. But for now, I've got a fantastic meal ahead of me. Let's try these roasted clams. Oh, that's good. The finest bubbly. Oh, this is good. You know, I've survived
in a lot of places, a lot of remote areas, and I've had times where there's been very little food all week long. But in a place like the tropics, there's no need to starve. There's plenty of food around. This is the easy stuff to get. I haven't yet been able to get a flounder. When I was here in the beginning of the week, there were all kinds of them. The last 2 days, I haven't seen one. It might be a lot easier for me to survive here in the tropics than it is, say, in the Arctic or in a desert. But without the will to live, there's survival nowhere.
Oh, look at that. I didn't even, if I'm going to ask Luke. Luke, rewind it a bit. Just watch, just go back 15 seconds. You see a rat running across behind me in the screen. I didn't even notice that, obviously, when I was doing this. There's a rat in the background. I didn't even notice that before.
And the rats are joining me for a meal. Look at you guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's like Willard here. There's rats coming in from everywhere.
Oh, so obviously I did notice it. Here we go.
Get out of here. Well, tomorrow my rescue comes. The boat will come in for me.
A little off tangent story on the rats was that while I was there, I don't know if I show this in the show, but I noticed that there are all these little land snails. And the land snails, every evening before sunset, were slithering up the branches and parking themselves on these high branches of bushes. They look like little Christmas tree ornaments. And then I realized what was going on. They were escaping the rats, because later I would watch the rats jumping up at the bushes trying to get the snails off the branches. So over all the years that the cook rats had infested this island, the snails that were probably endemic to the island had developed a whole new learned defensive technique of slithering up bushes and hanging out there for the night while the rats went on the hunt. Just brilliant.
The boat will come in for me. And you know, I think this is the one time I wouldn't mind if they waited a couple of days. Left me alone out here for a little bit longer. Well, that's night number 6. Surviving on a tropical island. It's a good day today. I had a full-on island feast. It wasn't difficult to obtain. Tonight, I've got full moon shining down on me. But since I sacrificed my harmonica earlier on in the week to make a tip for my spear, I grabbed a couple of coconuts, made myself a new instrument. Just whipped this up this afternoon. No one wants to find themselves in a survival situation. You just want to go home. But sometimes the ordeal becomes long-term survival, longer than 7 days. And whether in a life raft, on a mountain, in a desert, or on a tropical island, long-term survival has always been about maintaining the will to live, and then becoming familiar with the surroundings, especially the natural cycles of the plants and animals, even the weather. And then learning how to use these cycles to effect better survival. When the fish are coming in, when the plants are ripe, when the weather is most threatening. All information the lost victim needs to assess what to do next, what to do to survive.
Oh yeah. Well, man, there's a lot of memories flowing through me right now, watching that. The talk I did at the end there, along the way, I think I don't know when I first started that, but I did it, and Barry Farrell really enjoyed them. He really enjoyed that part of what I did. And so then we made it a thing where I would always write what I hoped would be something decent and if not slightly profound for the ending narration, to take you out on a note of importance and something to think about. So there you have it. That's the Cook Island episode, and very proud to show it to you. I think that's the end of Season 2. On to Season 3 next for the director's commentaries. And please subscribe and check out all the rest of the stuff that's on this channel. There are hundreds of videos on this channel right now, so you can binge watch this for quite some time. Always great doing this with you guys. I'll see you next time.